All right, gentlemen, I'd like to move forward with this document that, from the Israeli Foreign Ministry. One of the important things, obviously, that's making the news is the settlements. And Netanyahu wanted the world to praise him for what was called a moratorium as these talks began. But they were very critical in this paper also of Palestinians building homes on Palestinian land, which is really quite astounding. Where are Palestinians supposed to build their homes? But the issue of a moratorium, and it's going to be crunch time very soon if that's going to be extended. And one has to wonder, Dan, if I can go to you, these settlements, if they keep building settlements, that means they're going to stay. Well, who builds a house and then moves out? They're not going to give back this land, are they?
I don't know. Well, Peter, first of all, who builds houses and then gives out? Israel, actually, in an act of great compromise, ripped down all of its legally built homes in the Gaza Strip and then left. So there's a great precedent.
Yeah, but that was an illegal presence. That was an illegal presence. Why should anyone? Why should anyone in the world praise Gaza? For it ended its occupation. Wow. It's like praising the Americans for leaving Iraq when they went there illegally in the first place. It doesn't make any sense.
I think no, Peter, you're completely incorrect. I'm sorry. Israel and the Palestinians have a legal dispute. And Israel left in an act of compromise unilaterally the Gaza Strip, and they took all of their settlers, they took all of, their citizens, their communities, and their army out of the Gaza Strip, and it turned into an Iranian stronghold.
Then you blockaded it, right?
Settlements are a final step. Just like the United States has blockaded Cuba and NATO has blockaded parts of Europe, and the United States blockaded the Persian Gulf. Yes, there is a legal naval blockade.
Norman, if I can go to you, Norman. I mean, the Israelis saying that that they're willing to negotiate on these settlements, but we never see it. Go ahead.
The problem is that Dan confuses a dispute between the international community and Israel with a dispute between the Palestinians and Israel. The dispute on the issue of settlements is not between the Palestinians and Israel. It's the entire international community. In 2003, July 2004, I should say, the International Court of Justice, the highest judicial body in the world, it rendered an advisory opinion on many aspects of the Israel-Palestine conflict, including the question of the settlements. And the International Court ruled, and I want to underline, all 15 judges, every single judge agreed that under international law, the settlements that Israel has been building in the occupied Palestinian territories, including East Jerusalem, they are a flagrant violation of international law. Indeed, under the Rome statutes, they constitute a war crime. So this is not a local dispute between two quarreling parties. This is Israel engaged in a war crime which has been ratified as a war crime by the highest judicial body in the world. And now Israel comes along and it says, well, you
Peter,
see,
I'm going to jump in here.
Both sides
Norman's
are
going to finish his
engaged
point.
in war crimes.
All right, let Dan go
Now
ahead.
Israel says both sides are breaking the law because Palestinians are building homes in their homeland. Now that's an unusual principle. According to this principle, if your neighbor is not allowed to barge into your house and sleep there, then you shouldn't be allowed to sleep in your house.
All right, Dan.
If Palestinians cannot build homes in their homeland, where should they build them? On the moon?
Okay, Dan, I want you to reply to all that. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, point number one. In the 2004 decision, was an implementation of a political decision distorted of all norms of international law as decided by the Israeli Supreme Court. And in fact, the U.S. judge dissented with this completely stacked and grotesque opinion against the State of Israel in what was a political implementation of a decision. It was not a clear legal consideration. Mr. Finkelstein knows that very, very well. The second issue is that who exactly owned the land between 1947 and between 1949 and 1967? Would you say that Jordan was a war criminal because it annexed the West Bank in 1950, or was that Palestinian land in 1950, Mr. Finkelstein? Who was the legal owner of the West Bank between before 1967? The last legal owner was the Ottoman Empire, and you know that very well. So please desist from distorting and delegitimizing Israel's rights to build in its own homeland by twisting international law and distorting what you know to be a stacked political decision against Israel in 2004.
I think it's very interesting how people always use history here, and so I'm going to let me just.
Can you allow?
Go ahead, Norman. I was just going to say it's very interesting how history is used, because we have the end of the Ottoman Empire to the birth of Israel, and then it's just a big blank spot. You know, nobody owned the land. Okay, it seems rather ridiculous. Hundreds of thousands of people lived there. Okay, and they didn't come out of nowhere. Go ahead, Norman.
Dan,
there were 100,000.
You are not only
let Norman go. Please let Norman go. Go ahead, Norman. Go ahead.
Dan, you're not on the money today. You're not on principle today. You're floating in thin air today. I don't know where you're coming up with your so-called facts. You obviously haven't a clue what the International Court of Justice decided in July 2004. Because as a matter of fact, the American judge, Thomas Bergenthal, he delivered what he called a declaration. And in his declaration, he explicitly stated that he agreed with the majority that there can be no question but that under Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, the Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories are illegal. Now, your quarrel is not with me, Dan. Your quarrel is with all 15 judges sitting on the highest judicial body in the world. Your quarrel is with Rosalind Higgins, the British judge who also happens to be of Jewish birth. She was with the majority. Your quarrel is with Thomas Bergenthal, a Holocaust survivor, Jewish, the American representative. Your quarrel is with the International Committee of the Red Cross, which has also said they are the guardians of the Geneva Conventions. They've said the settlements are illegal. Right. Your quarrel is with Amnesty International.
All right, gentlemen,
Your quarrel is with Human Rights Watch.
Gentlemen, I'd like to...
Your quarrel is with the whole United Nations General Assembly.